way that the lens of Christian Science has allowed me to recognize the gifts that God is giving.
Sure. Hello, and welcome to interview number 23 of Whatever. And today we have another special guest, Alex Cook. Alex, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining us. So, Alex, where are you from?
I live in Boston, Massachusetts.
And is that where you grew up?
It's mostly where I grew up. I started off in Oxnard, California for the first 10 years of my life, but I'm mostly a Boston guy.
Okay, it's a little West Coast background, but mostly Northeastern.
That's right.
And Alex, what do you do?
I am mostly a mural painter, but I also am a musician and a writer. I'm an artist.
Yes, you have many different avenues to express your art. And
That's
I'm
right.
sure many of us are familiar with your art at the different institutions, Christian Science institutions around the country that have your murals. So did you grow up in a Christian Science Sunday school, or did you come to science later in life?
I did. I grew up in a Christian Science family and went to Sunday school till I was about 12, and then, like many people, took about a decade or a little bit more off, and then came
Yes.
back sort of in my early mid 20s.
Okay. And so how did you make science your own then at that point?
Well, kind of starting in that time away, I was very interested in all things spiritual. So outside of Christian Science, I was just reading up on all kinds of spirituality and religion and just sort of trying to figure it all out. The main problem was that I was struggling with depression and I really needed to be healed of that. And through the several years of work that I did to work out that problem, things became much clearer, and I just got a much better sense of who God is and who I am and how prayer works and that whole thing.
And was there a specific healing involved with that?
Yeah, definitely. That was definitely a life-changing healing. Just like I said, for a handful of years, I was just depressed and afraid and just struggling in all kinds of ways. And it ended up it was like being in the gym for prayer. It's just like
Okay.
uh, you know you just having to pray and pray and pray, and then you think you're done, and then you got to pray some more. Um, and as that began to lift and dissipate, I was a really transformed person, uh, free and happy and expressive in ways that, you know, I just sort of can't imagine my life without that transformation that took place at that point.
Awesome. So then why are you a Christian Scientist?
Uh, I am a Christian Scientist because A, looking back on my life to this point, uh, just the gifts that I've received and the way that the lens of Christian Science has allowed me to recognize the gifts that God is giving,
Sure.
um, has just made my life feel so special, feel so um, rich. Uh, but also, the promise of Christian Science is so deep and kind of magnificent. We have these healing experiences, these transformational experiences, um, that in the moment, in that month, in that year, are just spectacular. But they just kind of are a glimpse of
Right.
it's just going to get better, or this truth. Um, we see it in little moments, but the implication is just this enormous goodness that kind of isn't alluded to almost anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, I think our leader talks about signs and wonders are great, but they point to the higher mission of the Christ power to take away the sins of the world, right? So it's just a little
Exactly.
glimpse. Awesome.
Yeah.
So now we come to my absolute favorite part of the interview. What is your whatever you want to talk about tonight? What inspires you and helps you grow as a scientist?
Yeah. Well, there's really so many, but the big one for me, and especially when you talk about what's helping me grow as a scientist, it's certainly art. Um, I was just telling a friend, my art practice is it's what I do all day. It's
Right.
it's my the thing I'm most fascinated by outside of God Himself. I'm just so interested in making pictures and expressing ideas and the whole thing. And I was just telling a friend that uh, when I'm confused about something else or I'm working out a problem and feeling maybe like I don't exactly know what to do, it's really helpful to me to think of my art practice where after years and years and years of just giving my all to it, I don't ever wonder if I don't wonder if the art's going to come out beautiful. Like I'm just absolutely confident at all times
Right.
that it's going to come out fantastic. It's going to be fun. It's going to be enjoyable. I'm going to learn something. The person I'm doing it for is going to be delighted.
Right.
And so when I'm struggling with something else, I know that that's how God works. That's a model for me.
Right.
My art life, my creative life,
Right.
where I have just, for some decades now, just been giving my all.
Right.
Um, that operates as a model for me of how God's giving works. And we know that, this can work in every facet of life.
Right.
I just happen to have
Right.
really poured in my heart and seen it. I've demonstrated it a lot
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
regards to creativity. So it's very helpful to have that model uh, for other things. I go, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to get healed or what
Right.
I'm supposed to be doing here, but I know that the inspiration can come so naturally, and it can just feel like me. It's just so
Right.
comfortable. Um, One thing I have loved about my art career over the years is it's very often surprising, just like prayer is, really being open minded, really being
Right.
humble, being willing to go with the ideas that come with the best ideas of the moment. Um, it's so wonderful to be surprised, but an aspect of that that's so cool is I learn about myself. It's like God is teaching me
Right.
about me
Right.
as I'm doing this work, and it just shows me, God knows me so much better than I know myself. I didn't know that I was going to love this, but God did know that I was
Right.
going to love
Right.
this.
Exactly.
Um,
It's
so yeah,
it's my younger brother's a violinist, and for him music and science are the same, and it kind of seems like for you art and science are the same, right?
it really feels like that. I mean, at least this has been one vehicle through which I have been able to demonstrate a lot of these ideas and feel the freedom and the expansion of thought and success and all the things that come from being obedient to holy inspiration.
And what the point you just brought out earlier is pretty big. I don't think any of the other interviews we've talked about it, but I think one of the reasons why I'm interested in people's whatevers is because when they're passionate about something and you grow spiritually, it does help you in all the other aspects of your life, right? It's that example,
Hmm.
right?
I remember when I was a kid, my dad, a point of connection for my dad and I was sports.
Right.
Um, and so he was sort of a classic dad who wanted to teach me about life. And, he was a loving Christian Scientist. So he was always trying to teach me about life through sports.
Right.
And, there's so many metaphors
Of course.
about life through sports. And I have found that it's exactly the same way with art.
Yeah.
It's just like Mrs. Eddy says, there's so many lessons in nature.
Right.
Nature teaches us through metaphor, and just
Right.
through, we look out at a forest, we look out at
Right.
a mountain, and if
Right.
we're in a open-minded state of mind, we just get information. We
Right.
just have understanding. Um, and art is all about going with intuition, and appreciating beauty and ideas, and so it's just so natural in that creative place to be taught about existence by God.
Great. Have you can you share how you've grown spiritually because of your art?
Well, I think it begins with, there's just such a strong desire to participate in beauty. And that desire has been like this engine for me. Um, and art is inherently spiritual. I mean, everything is, but like art is kind of, it's very
Right.
easy to see that
Yeah.
that art is spiritual. It's about ideas. It's touching on things eternal.
Right.
It's dealing in qualities.
Right.
So to have this like burning fire that's telling me, express ideas,
Right.
uh, adventure in this realm of expression and thought. Explore. When you're sincerely exploring anything, you can't help but learn, and learning is growing.
Right.
And also, learning is like the greatest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So like that's part of the engine too. You go, oh, I learned a new thing that was so cool, and then you
Right.
want to learn more.
Right.
So for me, art has just been this locomotive engine of, oh, I learned that, now I want to learn
Right.
this, now I want to learn that. It's just
It,
like
it
this
seems like it's
adventure.
just endless spiritual growth for you.
It is. And it's amazing how it's endless.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to tell a beautiful little healing I had about 25 years ago. Remember,
Yeah.
I was in college, and this was before I really considered myself a Christian Scientist. Um, but I did pray at that point. But I was feeling afraid about, what if I run out of ideas?
Right.
So, I'm in college, I'm going to school for art, and I just started to have this fear. I'm like, it's going to be hard enough to be an artist
Right.
and make my way in the world.
Right.
What if, on top of everything, it turns out that I don't have enough ideas to make it work? And I kind of was dealing with that for a few months. And I just remember this one day I was riding in the back seat of a friend's car, uh, and my friends were talking in the front, and I kind of couldn't hear what they were saying. So I was just like looking out the window at the landscape going by, and I wasn't even praying really, but I just was looking at the landscape, and I just had this thought: God is infinite. God is the source of ideas. I can never run out of ideas. And it wasn't something I had to convince myself of.
Right.
Just was like, oh yeah, that's true. Okay. And I never worried about having enough ideas ever again
That's
after
great.
that.
That's
It was
great.
like really, really such a relief.
God in action and truth in action. So awesome.
Mhm.
Hey, Alex, anything left you want to share with the subscribers before I let you go? Anything you want to say?
Uh, Gosh, I guess the most important thing to me is that adventure, that desire to to learn the thing that sets your heart on fire. It's I have always loved the simplicity of desire is prayer.
Yes.
Um, because we have our desires. Sometimes we feel like, gosh, I don't know how to pray, but we have desire, and desire put into action. Desire is prayer, and I think that just means the world, because it pushes us to explore, and that's just everything.
Alex, this has been delightful. You just hit a home run. We'll use that sports metaphor.
There we go.
It was great talking to you. I know our subscribers are going to love this interview, and thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Great to be with you.